everyone while they finish. Vineet. Um, so the bottom line of this conversation is supposed to be the aftermath of ETF. We've seen a great philosophy. By the way, I publicly address that I'm highly inspired by Art. Every time I listen to him, I almost I call myself his fanboy. So every single talk is one more addition. I thought I would start to mimic him in a while because I almost know everything he's about to speak. But nonetheless, this conversation is somebody that we all, as an industry, aspire for. And this is not particular to crypto. This is particular to every emerging market where we want somebody, I hate to call it elders because he looked like a 20 or 30 years old, but we want elders of the
have elder abuse up here.
we want somebody senior enough from the larger over-encompassing industry to come in and attest that what we are doing is somewhere close to right, or at least the direction is right. Anthony comes from decades of financial markets, Wall Street experience, manages a few billions, yes, a couple of millions in crypto, maybe more. But we still take him as the flag bearer, the torch bearer of Web3 in that market, and as well as a leading light for us. So this conversation largely will be me talking less and asking him for his perspectives, the way his world looks at us, so that maybe we can learn a bit, we can structure ourselves a bit more, and find our way upwards. Anthony, a bit of introduction would help everyone to know you better.
I appreciate being here. Thanks, G. But first thing I want to say is that if you have an Asian tiger mom and you raised the kid in Austria, that's some laboratory experiment right there. I gotta just tell you, okay, you were at the top of Mount Everest in terms of accomplishment. So I'm just tipping my hat to you. But second thing I want to say is I appreciate the invite again, Wolfgang. Last time I was here, we talked about regulation. If you remember that, you gave me 5 minutes to talk about regulation. And I did predict that the US would have to cede to the natural property rights of Bitcoin. And so just for everybody's benefit, the IRS is still a pretty defining aspect of the United States. And about 8 or 9 years ago, they defined Bitcoin as intangible property. And so that the minute they did that, whether you like the United States, dislike the United States, one thing sacrosanct about the United States is property rights. It goes back to the Magna Carta, it's British common law, it made its way into the colonies, and it got fostered and solidified in the country, and they can't take your property away from you. This has been a very big sacrosanct. Even the gold, when Roosevelt said that he wasn't going to allow people to own gold, he had to buy the gold back from the gold holders. And so a result of which it became impossible for regulators. Now, I think Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler are in the regulatory axis of evil because ultimately they don't understand what you guys are doing. And it's been my experience that the more homework you do about Web3, the more homework you do about the blockchain, it's a one-way ticket towards the blockchain. If you understand Bitcoin and you spend time learning about Bitcoin, not just the white paper, but learning about the technology, the network effect of Bitcoin, it's impossible not to go in the direction towards Bitcoin. About 2 years ago, I was at I think it was like Abu Dhabi Finance Week. I was sitting in the lobby of the Four Seasons Hotel, and this is on El Marion Island, right by the ADGM building. And Larry Fink walked in. And so everybody knows who Larry is, the largest asset manager in the world, or if not, definitely in the United States. He walks in. I stood up to say hello to him. We started talking. He goes, you like this Bitcoin bullshit, don't you? And I said, yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I've spent a lot of time on it. We own, 9 figures or so in Bitcoin. He goes, yeah, this is a bunch of bullshit. I just made an investment in Circle, the stablecoin company, but I actually think Bitcoin is bullshit. And I looked at him, I said, well, I think if you do the homework on it, you'll realize that it's not bullshit. And if you ever see Jeremy Allaire, if you walk by him here on the promenade, you should thank him, because the investment in Circle led to Larry doing a deep dive in Bitcoin. And one of the great things about phenomenal leaders is they can shift on a dime. And they can say, you know what, I got this wrong. I've got to go in another direction. And I would say I left this stage a year ago. I got a call from Larry's team probably late January. It was the 28th or 29th. And they said to me, listen, we want to put a Bitcoin ETF together. We're forming a Bitcoin trust. Would you be interested in putting outside money into this? It would really help us with our investment committee and some of the BlackRock bureaucracy there. And so SkyBridge was the first dollar into the BlackRock Bitcoin Trust that applied for the ETF application. And you guys probably know this. I think there are 537 ETF applications. I think they missed on one. So, I mean, I wish the New York Jets had a record like that. But anyway, why am I bringing all this up? Because not only are you on the right path, but I think it's important that you evangelize the path that you're on. If you don't spend the time in events like this, bringing in new people, and spend time with what I would call the institutionalists. You know, so Gaurav is making fun of my age, because he's, how old are you?
12.
Yeah, no, right, exactly, he's 12.
37.
All right, so you're 37. So when you were 20 years old, I came to Davos for the first time. So this is my 17th Davos, and I can tell you something about Davos that I've learned. Follow the crowd here at Davos, do the exact opposite. Follow the crowd. 2007, I got here. The crowd said that the economy was going to grow forever, and we had solved all of our monetary policy problems. We went into the deepest recession that we've ever had. 2009, the crowd here said that the earth was going to open. All of us were going to fall into the earth, and we were heading for a worse depression than the 1930s. We had the greatest bull market in history. I got here in 2016. I was told Hillary Clinton was going to be president. There was no stopping her, no sense in even having an election. But in 2020, I would say it was 100% that Donald Trump was going to win re-election. And so follow the crowd. Last year, I can't tell you the number of meetings I had where people told me Bitcoin is dead. It's a dead asset. It's a ghost chain. Web3 is dead. And look at where we are a year from where those statements were made by a very broad-based elitist delegation here in Davos. And so I'll say three more things and then I'll shut up. One, you got to stay at this, irrespective of markets, irrespective of market volatility. Number two, you have to evangelize this movement, because when people understand it, Larry Fink goes from not understanding it to being one of the first big Bitcoin ETFs, and he's got $9 trillion. And you guys may know Wall Street, but I've been on Wall Street for 35 years. These products are sold, they are not bought. Wall Street will send thousands of people into the marketplace to talk to clients about having a 1% to 2% exposure in Bitcoin. And so you have to evangelize it. Side footnote to that, Jamie Dimon knows exactly what this is. But he's got huge pressure on him from the axis of regulatory evil, and so he's never going to speak up about it until it's way more accepted than it currently is. But don't follow his words, follow what JP Morgan is doing. Look at the massive investments, investment capital, human capital in this space. And oh, by the way, since I have an account there, last week I called my rep there and said, geez, I'd like to buy the Blackstone Bitcoin ETF. Am I allowed to do that? They came back to me and said, yes, on an unsolicited basis. You know, you can call us and buy an unlimited amount of it, and we'll put it in your account and domicile it at JP Morgan. Not the case at Vanguard, as we know, not the case at Merrill Lynch, but eventually will be the case. And then the last thing that I will say to you guys is I have never had this much fun in my life, okay? Most of the people in this room are nuts and have a screw loose. I'm just looking around, myself included. And I mean, maybe you don't, because the whole Austrian tiger mom thing. Maybe you're like the most normal person here, possibly, but most of us are a little nuts. And it has been incredibly entertaining and enjoyable for me. And it's way better than working in the White House. Okay, you could ask another question. And I'll take questions, you know.
So I'll allocate, in the crypto terms, I'll allocate this applaud to first investment in BlackRock and telling them and putting that your direction is right and you believe in that. And then, of course, your money is where your mouth is. But then, of course, and by the way, you said great leaders make a shift over a dime. I certainly call myself a great leader, so I'll tell you my shift, which is I was one of those people, like one of those 100% people that I know in my circle said it's going to be an absolute upward run from the Bitcoin announcement. But at the same time, when the news leaked 3 times and we saw how market behaved, yes, I retracted quickly. Probably for just myself and for a lot of people who over-speculated the ETF news, what exactly is happening at the bottom level, at the market level? Because you said it right. They don't make products, they sell products, which means that there's only endless incoming. And 1% of a global portfolio of a CFO, which is probably managing a few agri-tech farms in the corner of India, can now, let's not use India, but in Europe, would now have a bit of exposure to Bitcoin through this ETF just because he thinks it's right, and his community is now talking about it. And then the founder or the CEO of the company would finally look at his books and probably see, oh, what's this Bitcoin thing sitting on my books? So, and I only see an endless inflow, right? What is this happening, and why my multi-million futures are now in a negative position?
Okay, so it's a really good question, but let me say 2 things to think about first. Number one,
and give me a good news, please.
This was a seismic thing that happened in the United States. You cannot underestimate the SEC, whether they wanted to or not. They put a regulatory wrapper over Bitcoin, and Gary Gensler himself has called Bitcoin a commodity. And so a result of which, this is a seismic regulatory approval, and it's now paving the path for Bitcoin to enter into the institutional marketplace, enter into the individual accounts. The second thing that happened is the FASB rules. And you may not be as familiar with that, but my friend Michael Saylor worked very hard on that. And so the way the rules worked, if you held Bitcoin on your balance sheet, let's say you held it at 20,000, if it went to 60,000, couldn't mark it up. If it went from 20,000 to 10,000, you had to mark it down, a result of which that was a big turnoff to a CFO who was trying to build cash reserves or using Bitcoin in a portfolio of cash and receivables and bonds and so forth. That is a very big seismic move. But what's happening right now short term is you've got to look at the inventory that the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust holds above 50,000, above 38,000 even, because they're charging 2%, they reduced it to 1.5%. But let's say I bought the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust after the futures deal was announced in November of 2021. I paid $68,000 for the trust. I've held it on the way down. It's now back up to 44,000. I can sell that in the United States, but remember these rules. I have to take the money out of it and wait 30 days. I can't sell that and flip right into the Blackstone Bitcoin ETF because I won't be able to take the tax loss. So I've got a $68,000 basis. I sell it. I book a $25,000 loss. I'm waiting the 30 days to reload into Bitcoin. And if you look around the inventory that's in the marketplace and you talk to the market makers or the guys on point at BlackRock, they're going to tell you that's exactly what's happening right now. Now, BlackRock had creates, that's an ETF term. If you call, like SkyBridge owns an ETF called CRPT. It's basically all the publicly traded companies that build the infrastructure around Web3. Would include things like Marathon or MicroStrategy, Coinbase, et cetera. If you call to your broker to buy that, they have to create it. It's not just sitting there. And so last week, BlackRock had $497 million in creates. But there's been a massive churn of inventory coming out of the Grayscale Trust. So this, according to my friends in the industry, is probably another 10 or so trading days to clear out all of this inventory. And then I believe the futures that you're holding, there'll be a base for those futures, and I think you'll end up being very happy.
I think you used the word "seview" or something in CFC.
The word what?
Some marine, a word used to express upwards in Marines. Seview?
Yeah, kavu. No. So what I said, there's a ceiling and visibility unlimited. So if you're a Navy pilot, the best day to fly is kavu, ceiling and visibility unlimited. George Herbert Walker Bush, who was a Navy pilot and was shot down in the Pacific in the World War, and was obviously rescued by a U.S. submarine. That was his favorite line. He had a brass plaque in the study off of the Oval Office that said kavu. You have to think of your life like that your ceiling and your visibility is unlimited. It's only limited by your mindset and what you're thinking about that can hold you back. And I think it's kavu for Bitcoin, but I also think it's kavu for Animoco, and I think it's kavu for this industry. Again, it's not going to be perfect. What is perfect? We know from the moon, the stars, the rotation of the earth, that everything is cyclical. So you can't expect a 45-degree trajectory. I only know one person in my 35-year career that had a 45-degree trajectory on his performance, and he got a 150-year jail sentence, and that was Bernie Madoff. Sam is a totally different subject, and you guys are a lot cheaper than my therapist. If you want to talk about Sam, I'm happy to talk about Sam. But you don't get a 45-degree up into the right move unless you're making it up. You have to go through the pain and the ups and downs in this industry if you really want to be rewarded.
No doubt. Every time people talk, I think a lot of people here are not from Asia, and that's what I was discussing with a fellow here. But the thing about Asia is every bull markets, you see Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore flocking with these guys with rolls and fancy cars and fancy apparels, gold all around, and all of that is the power of that 90-degree that then cash upon, and then of course they fall.
But don't overly judge me, because I'm a nouveau riche Italian from Long Island. I love cars. Okay, if you come to my house, I got a ton of cars. Okay, don't knock the Asians so badly. They like cars too. It's all good. If you come to my house, I'll let you drive a few of my cars.
Fantastic. So on the expectations of exactly those people, and a lot of us, and exactly what happened on the approval of ETF is what we saw in the markets. The market sentiment immediately shifted to other ETFs, the Ethereum, probably Solana, I hate to say that. Doge, I would love to see that. What do you think is the future of that? And probably quickly.
So unfortunately, I think you heard in the press release that Gary Gensler views, 2 minutes? Okay, we'll be off in a sec. Gary Gensler believes that Bitcoin is a commodity, everything else is a security. That was in the press release. So if you understand the ETF rules in the US, you can't put a singular security in an ETF. You can put a bunch of securities in an ETF. You can put a commodity, a singular commodity, in an ETF. And so I think he'll reject that application in May. I hope I'm wrong about that, but my guess is he will, because his queen is Elizabeth Warren. Okay, she cut a pact with Joe Biden to be the president for financial services, and she hates every single person in this room. And I always tease Mike Novogratz about this, is that because he made so much goddamn money off of crypto, she hates that, Rather than embrace the innovation and rather than help the United States maintain its mantle of financial services leadership globally. I mean, Yacht basically said, I mean, the blockchain is such an American idea. She wants to thwart that due to her own position about not liking rich people. I love rich people, okay? And I want everybody to be rich. And maybe that's not possible, but this is a great equalizer. Okay, this will help the unbanked. This is a progressive idea. But I am skeptical about the ETF. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, the ETH ETF, because of the way these people think. I think we're done, right? All right, can I say one last thing before we walk out of here? Don't give up. Under any circumstances, no matter what bad news hits you, don't give up. I mean, I've been torched. Okay, I got fired from Goldman when I got started there. Then I convinced them to rehire me. That's a very long story. I got my ass blasted out of the White House after 11 days, skinned alive, rolled in margarita salt out on Pennsylvania Avenue. Who cares, okay? Remember the words from the American comedian Mel Brooks. Relax, none of us are getting out of here alive, okay? Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, for joining.